1, 2, ready, go. KrogCast makes your work week better as we chat about memes and the tier 4 meta, cause it's cars we play every night and every day. So get down with Faeria, cause it's here to stay. We're all friends here, so let's keep it coolio. Now just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, it's Matrien here. Great to have you out. Thanks for coming back for KrogCast. We're here. I'm joined with our gracious host, Frosty Reindeer, and the legendary Scorch. So glad to have him with us this week. Hope everyone's doing great and is ready for an exciting expansion next week. We want to start off this week with an introduction segment. We want to get to know each other, get to know you guys, and talk about how we got started with this game, our origins and card games in general. And I want to turn it over to Scorch because he has been in this community for the longest. He's run a podcast a long while back, and he's just a great guy, great commentator, and I want to hear what he's got to say. So Scorch, I want to start by saying, how did you get into card games specifically, like physical card games or digital? What brought you to this genre?
I mean, I appreciate the words, the kind words there. Yeah, I definitely have been with this. At least in terms of Faeria being on Steam, I've been with this community for basically since the beginning. I got a code giveaway in the start of early access and started playing it, loving it. I was just starting streaming at that point. But I mean, way back, I played Magic the Gathering, a physical card game, back when you had to go buy packs and you play with your friends at lunchtime. I also played a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic back in the day. I really love that style of the hex combat, and that, of course, gelled perfectly together when I found Faeria. Right. So, yeah, it really kind of came together. Loved the game right away, and then, took off from there, streaming, and then trying to do like content, and then starting into casting. So,
nice. Had you ever had any casting experience before?
No, absolutely none. I'm a huge eSports fan. I watch a ton of League of Legends, Hearthstone, Dota back in the day. I'm a big sports fan as well. Like, I'll literally watch any sport that's on. It doesn't matter if it's a 4 a.m. Aussie rules football or something. Like, if there's some sport on when I'm awake, I'm just like, I guess I'll just put this on and watch it. Cool. Coming kind of from that of enjoying watching people play made me want to go, well, I could talk during this. I really like having that back end and watching people who are great at what they do it on a top stage. So yeah, it kind of just went, oh, let's have a try at it. And something that I really enjoyed when I started.
Oh, cool. And I know you're also into the statistics behind for sports in general, but there's a great application of it to Faeria and figuring out the meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we don't do too much. I say we, but as far as kind of like the back end of commentary and casting and that, just because we a lot of times don't have enough casters that somebody is sitting. We have in the past in monthly cups and that sort of thing had 5 or 6 people on, so we have a steady rotation. And even now, I've tried to bring that back. Basically, whenever I'm on the back end of Aquablad and Natmaz, for example, in the last the halftime tournament, I believe it was, they were covering the 3rd place match. So I'm able to kind of sit back and actually do the statistics as we're running through, and able to provide some very cool things on the back end. Collection stats, the analytic approach, I think, is something that can add a lot of production value. It's something that I see a lot of value added in. You're able to present things in a cool way to the viewers. So something that I wanted to start doing and kind of just got it rolling little bits at a time. But yeah, it's something that I'm trying to kind of get in more and more.
Nice. Now, I know we appreciate it. I love seeing whenever you post stats, like how many times a card was used. I know you have one particular post. It's a little old on the hub, where you go through all these really fun highlights that you wouldn't think of, but when you find out about them, it's like, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, so that one was a really fun one to work on. I had for a long time, it's not up to date as much recently, but basically all throughout the monthly cup time that existed in Faeria's kind of esports history, I ran a spreadsheet document that tracked every single player's competitive experience. I don't know kind of what the way to say it is, but every single qualifier they played in, every open or monthly cup they played in, what eventually became opens they played in, every single thing that they had done in competitive Faeria was tracked with win rates, with standings, with prize pools. And then we took all of that when the transition was made from monthly cups to seasonal cups and turned in a huge stats document of here's cool things to point out. So we had, most plays without actually ever winning. We had best win rate during a monthly cup. We had, the most prize money won, the most monthly cups won, all of those sorts of things. Eventually came into one document that then we shared little tidbits of, and then shared the whole thing if anybody wanted to go explore more of it. Just XGet in chat there is asking for the link. I'm not actually sure what the link is. I could find it for you. Maybe PM me in Discord and I'll find it for you at another time.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing, Scorch. Anything else you want to share before we move on to Frosty?
No, I'm still, it's crazy to think of how long it's been and still enjoying the game so much. And especially now when we get new content, one of the things that I love is the kind of theoretical to each new card introduced. You have to kind of consider every single other card that exists. So really liking now that we're getting more and more cards released.
Yeah, and you just released a couple hours ago your very own card reveal. I haven't even seen the video yet, but I'm excited to, because you always give it a great thorough analysis relative, like you were saying, to all the other cards. Yeah,
definitely not as creative as your card reveal was for. But yeah, it definitely is a much more analytical approach. Cool. Of the card reveal of here's the card, let's talk about what it looks like, balance wise to other cards that we have, potential uses that I see for it. So yeah, I was really excited to be able to be kind of part of the community content leading up into part 2 here.
Nice. And we can find it on Metagaming TV, the YouTube
Metagaming
channel, right?
TV, you can find it YouTube.
There's a link that's going to be every 20 minutes or so, it'll be in chat. So you'll be able to click on it throughout the whole rest of the stream if you're interested in that, for sure.
Yeah, I posted on Reddit as well, and it's shared through kind of all the Discords.
Awesome. Cool, thanks.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Frosty, we want to move on to you, I think, if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
what brought you to card games, and this in particular?
To card games, everyone played Pokemon back in the day. That was the thing. I don't know about you guys, but that was my thing, Yeah. I don't have any of that Pokemon on the bus or anything like that, but I like the Game Boy games, and that kind of transitioned into card games when I got a little bit older. I think the summer of a few years ago, I got into the Pokemon trading card game, and that kind of transpired into Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's where I really found my roots in card games. It was fast paced, 40 cards in a deck, so the games went really, really quick. A lot of searching, really consistent cards, fun effects. The game, there was a lot going on at one time, like the trap cards, and so that's kind of how I got into card games. And I played that for about a year, and then kind of got out of it. I played Hearthstone here and there, but I never really considered myself a card game player, and that was weird because my friend introduced me to Faeria one day. I don't know if he's in chat, but his name's Josh. He introduced me to Faeria. I didn't find it on my own. He actually introduced me, and we got a little bit competitive with it, and I started playing because I wanted to beat him, right? So I kept playing and playing and playing, and it just kind of stuck. And I figured I went to Twitch one day to watch some Faeria, and there was no one live. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to stream. It's every kid's dream to grow up and be the next ninja or whatever, but so I turned the stream on, and here we are. Started casting, I think after playing for only 2 months. So I don't know how long after Scorch you started playing the game you started casting, but I'm still a new player. I've only been in the game for 4 months, so I'm trying to make some waves and work on my own content, but getting into card games was it was such a fun experience for me. I actually had to stop because I was spending too much on Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like I just could not afford it. It's just it's like $4 a pack. It's like you just can't, like, I know you buy boxes, but you just can't afford that. I mean, I was working, but you get into college and you got to cut down on hours, and you just can't be buying cards anymore. But honestly, if I had all the money in the world, I probably would still be playing Yu-Gi-Oh. So I'm kind of glad that I
play against other people in your community at tournaments.
Yeah, I went to a few local tournaments. I was never, number one or number two, but partially it's because physical card games, I know Scorch knows about this, it's very, very expensive to keep up with the meta when you're playing physical card games. So that was kind of part of the disconnect there. The good thing about Yu-Gi-Oh though is that there's no like, I don't know how they do it in Magic. I know they do it in Pokemon, but it's like the last 3 sets are like standard, and then they do like Legacy and everything before that. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, the only limit is the ban list. So, you can use any card from any time, anywhere, as long as it's not on the ban list, and you're good to go. So I think, being able to watch the anime on Netflix or whatever, and then come and build that deck, and then it just kind of picked up, and I started playing online and went to tournaments, and it was just a really great experience. And I love card game communities a lot more than other video games, because you can talk strategy, and there's also memes, and most of it's strategy, but you go into like an Overwatch Discord, and it's all just like toxic and like looking to play. I just didn't really like that dynamic of other video games. So yeah, I definitely like Faeria, and I'm glad I got into it. But started with Yu-Gi-Oh, and now we're here casting and hoping to be one of the greats one day in the Faeria community. But it's definitely a grind.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. I guess we'll turn to me last. I got into card games. I didn't intend to really. I'd say the first one was probably the mini game in Final Fantasy VIII. If anybody is old enough to remember that. It was called Triple Triad, and it was what drew me in about it is that you could, if you played against other NPCs in the game, you could earn cards from them, and then you could exchange those, kind of like crafting, for materials you could use to synthesize weapons in game. And I remember there was a way to, if you played against everybody in the first area in that Balam Garden so many times, you could unlock the second most powerful sword in the game. So that's what I did. And from there, I got some Yu-Gi-Oh cards, some Pokemon cards, but I never really knew how to play.
Right.
And then Faeria came around because I was playing Elder Scrolls Legends, big Elder Scrolls fan, and I got in on the open beta for that. And then I saw a tweet from one of the top Elder Scrolls Legends streamers, CVH, and it was a tweet of Aquablad's like the God ranking, and CVH was saying how nice it would be if Elder Scrolls Legends had that kind of ELO ranking system. And I saw, I just went straight over the Faeria website, and I never turned back. I still play Legends sometimes, but it was just like I only had room for one game at a time. And Faeria, the artwork, that Ghibli-esque art really stuck with me. And I had the gameplay, the community too. So that's what brought me here.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah,
I'm glad that, we're all like a tightly knit community for the most part. We're welcome to outsiders. We welcome outsiders if you will, but we like to make people stay. We're friendly. I haven't really seen any toxicity, so I'm thankful to be a part of a community that's really positive and kind of enforces good behavior, and to be a part of this with the community and you guys. So with that, I think we are ready to kind of move into the first part of the show. Where if you guys don't know, we kind of structure the show in 2 parts. The first part is talking about Faeria, cards, decks, the meta, what the hosts are qualified to talk about, if you will. But the second half is really open. We'll answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions, post them in the Discord and the KrogCast Discord, or just kind of wait till we start opening the show up a little bit, and we'll definitely get to those. But for right now, I think that Matrien wants to talk about Green Rush, specifically Teddy's Green Rush. And I know Scorch has some stuff to say about that. So cool. Let's go ahead and show this and go for it.
Cool. I'm also seeing in chat XGed tell me not to be nervous. Not really not nervous, but I did have a full day of work. I rushed home, scarfed dinner, and I'm standing up in my kitchen. And I'm not used to talking this much, sit by a computer most of the day and or stand by a computer, and so not as much nerves, but I appreciate your thoughtfulness, XGed. So we've got Teddy's Green Rush up on screen right now, and Green Rush is a deck I've been very comfortable playing with. Not this particular build recently, but if you're not aware, in the most recent Cypher Open, I want to say, cast by Frosty,
yes,
Teddy went 3-0, surprised everyone in the finals with bringing a Green Rush deck. And this has a couple of unique components to it, and unique tech choices that separate it from what I'd consider a Green Rush deck that Werf's brought to my attention. And we I went to Werf's in the coaching tab on Discord and got talking about Green Rush. So what I'm noticing about Teddy's Green Rush, and what really were the surprises in his finals, were Haunted Willow, and we have, Emerald Yak, and the baby yak that it generates, that taunt ability. Do you guys want to chime in anytime? I mean, other than those two cards, this looks like a very traditional Green Rush. A little on the, well, you know what? I'm actually used to running more bulky creatures in Green Rush, instead of Tiki Piper, maybe Tiki Caretaker for the +2/+2. Instead of Sagami Warrior, maybe Deepwood Grizzly, because it's at 3/8. It's 3/8, right?
Yeah.
Hard to take down, and you just start I guess if you're not familiar with Green Rush, it runs very bulky creatures, so you build up straight towards face like any Rush deck, and then you drop, bam, a Verdant Force, or Verdant Force and Mace Man or Deranged Monkey I run. And it's, if your opponent doesn't have, if you're even up against blue, if you rush them fast enough and drop a Verdant Force, they can't get the 4 legs for Frogify. They may not be able, well, Humbling Vision's a thing now too for Verdant Force, but it's a fun deck. I really enjoy it. So go ahead and chime in, guys.
Well, I can before Scorch goes on his little. I know Scorch has some stuff to say here, but I don't really play Green Rush, so I can't comment too much on it. The only thing I can say is I hate playing against this deck. Maybe that's because I don't really understand how it works as a whole. But when I see the green come down in the middle, I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. And then I see him build the 2 neutrals, and then they pass, and I'm like, I know they got Verdant, I know they have it, and I'm building my lakes to the right, and so I build my 3rd lake and pass, and then they throw down their 2nd forest, and guess who? It's Verdant Force on my face, and so now I got to deal with that. So it seemed like a strong deck. I mean, I casted Teddy playing this deck, and there was I think it was the 2nd game. It was such a good game. I mean, entertainment wise, it came right down to the last turn. I think it was S of Dawn, if I remember correctly. Yes. He just kept drawing, and he was looking for his I don't want to spoil it, but I guess we already kind of did. But anyways, he was looking, S of Dawn was looking for his Ninja Toad, and Teddy kind of transposed from a Green Rush into kind of a green, mono green, right? And just collected, and it was really cool. It was really cool to see how he kind of opened the deck up from a Rush deck to being able to play it in other ways. I thought that was really interesting. But I hate playing against this deck. I don't know what it's like to play it. I haven't really gotten a feel for it, but I'm sure that Scorch can help me with that there.
Yeah. So I mean, like you mentioned, with that kind of resetting, Green's almost always kind of been that way, of a much slower deck. So the fact that it wants to play aggressive, but then if it gets stopped, it can actually reset pretty easily back to a more defensive position and wait for something else big. I think one of the kind kind of big points of Green Rush is how quickly it can take a game if your opponent doesn't have a good start. Like the fact that you can go Verteran Force either into buffs or into another creature means you put so much pressure on so early, whereas something like Yellow Rush, even Red Rush to a certain extent, their creatures are much smaller, much easier to deal with. Even if you get a little behind, as long as you then get one creature down and you can start to set up, you can get that ball rolling back in your direction. But yeah, for Green Rush, it's just like, all right, deal with a 7/7. I can't. Okay, now deal with a 9/11. I can't. All right, now you're dead. Like the fact that it wins so quickly some games is pretty insane at how quickly it can just win before you're even ready. But yeah, this list was super interesting to me as well. Haunted Willow, when it was released, I kind of wrote off just being like, well, maybe if Green Rush is good, this is the reason, but I don't see that being a thing. What really intrigued me about this list from Teddy is he had the Tiki Pipers in there as well, which are good to go onto any other creature, but that means you're paying 5 Faeria for a 7/5 plus a 1/1 somewhere else. You can put it back defensively for collection and keep that ball rolling with more and more big creatures, or you just put it, off to the side a little more, a little more, collecting. Maybe it needs that 1 damage to clear something off. Sorry, laughing at clip in Twitch chat there. But yeah, that really surprised me, the way that you can have those kind of synergies where you have a card that is weak by itself that then gets buffed up by the other pieces of the deck and just becomes basically like you're playing 6 Verteran Forces.
Yeah, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
And so that was Haunted Willow. I also want to mention Emerald Yak and specifically the Baby Yak with the 1/1 taunt. And sometimes not even a 1/1. You can buff that thing up.
Yeah,
you can take it. That taunt can be really valuable when you're buffing a powerhouse like Verteran Force. You said you don't want it to be touched or locked down at all. That can be all you need. That 1/1 with taunt to really just seal it. Or keep an opponent, if you play it right around there. If they have a creature by their orb, you can play it next to that and prevent it from collecting too. Kind of just box in that area and not let them do anything.
Yeah, we saw, I believe it was in that one game where Esavon was trying to draw his Ninja Toad. I think that we saw Teddy play the Emerald Yak to prevent lethal on his face. It was kind of risky because I think Esavon was running vision and commands. So, Teddy taking that risk and, playing the Emerald Yak and then protecting his face with the taunt. It was a really, really cool line. Just kind of using taunt how it was designed to be played, not letting the other creature attack or move. And it worked really well for Teddy. Obviously, he, did win the monthly cup, but really cool deck. If anyone wants to use it and can figure it out, because I haven't, then it's definitely here. Yeah. And I'm sure Teddy would be more than willing to kind of comment on it at some time and walk you through it. But it looks really. And I will.
Yeah, I'll bet that Aquablad is going to have a video out this weekend on these decks. I'm almost positive. He always grabs the best decks from these cups and explains them. So yeah. One more thing about this deck I want to mention. Actually, it's about Scorch. You probably have more context on this, but Teddy, from what I remember from some of the final monthly cups, is a very experienced green player. So the shift to Green Rush seemed kind of natural. Any perspective on that historically?
I mean, Teddy's been around the game for so long. Some of the biggest moments, like we were talking about with that stat dump that we put together for the monthly cups, Teddy had the best win rate through a monthly cup that's ever existed. I don't think it's been touched in seasonal cups, but of course we're under a different format now, so you're not really comparing the same things. I don't know how much he played kind of mono green, and I was actually surprised by this lineup from Teddy that it had 2 rush decks in it, because my memory from way back was Teddy being much more of a control or a mid range. That I just mentioned with Teddy having the best win rate was with blue jump. I don't remember the exact of what he went with that deck specifically, but it was like 15-2. I think went 3-3-0s in that multi cup with blue jump, much more control oriented. So I was very surprised to see this fast of a lineup out of him this time around.
Yeah, in our tight knit community, everybody, especially Teddy being so prominent in the ranked and tournament scene, it's the element of surprise. Keeps people on their toes. So that was great to see.
Yeah, and that's, sometimes those top players stay at the top because they bring something different, because you're not able to get a read for, I'm expecting this because they did that last time, or, whatever the case may be. That kind of statistical analysis that we can kind of look at doesn't actually exist for some of those top players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that, I've talked about this before, how, top players will kind of set the meta for the rest of the game in a way, especially when the tournaments are being broadcasted. I was casting with Hunter during, when this game was being played, and he not only did he call the 3-0 sweep with this specific deck from Teddy, he also said that people are going to start playing green and green rush a little bit more in the future, and he was correct about that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, how some of the new cards, kind of fit into to green and green rush, and maybe we can see a little bit more green played how it was, I guess, designed to play. Because right now, I don't know. It feels like it's kind of outclassed by other decks. To an extent. I was going to mention that really quickly as well. Just being like, of course, green is saved for part 2 of Resurgence. So we've had this time where we haven't had a new green card released for a while. But mono green just almost doesn't exist in the meta outside of a rush like this. I have seen a couple mid-ranges around greens that are running more of the jump creatures, things like Sagami or the Feral Kodama as well, just strong, beefy creatures that have jump to keep up with how quickly other creatures can move around the board right now. But yeah, mono green is in a pretty rough spot until we see what's coming in part 2 of Resurgence. Definitely. So I know that Scorch wanted to, we're going to start, kind of transitioning into a different style of deck, something that Scorch seemed to want to talk about. It's Red Burn. Is that right? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, I absolutely love Red Burn. It's an archetype that when I started playing Faeria, I loved, still love it to this day, just because of the versatility that it can have. This is a deck that I was running on stream last week. Had kind of mixed success with it. Feels like you really need the right cards at the right time to catch back up on value, because a lot of the creatures, especially this version when I'm not running the combat package of things like Grimguard, Shed and Brute, and then Gift of Steel, which of course got the recent nerf, you really need then a creature to trade and then Cypher's Wrath to finish it off, and then get them low enough for Flame Bursts, maybe your Rebel Slingers, or a couple ticks from Hellfire. But it's a deck that can get snowballing pretty well and can close out the game from afar, which is what I love. The versatility in Burn, when you can play defensive, let your opponent, you kind of force your opponent to come to you and then kill their creatures and deal damage from afar, is such a fun style to play. And if they're playing defensive, you do have some creatures that you can go out and get them, or you're just waiting essentially for your burn cards. This type of a list I wasn't really sure of, and I didn't experiment too much with, but yeah, it's a very fun archetype to play, in my opinion.
Nice. Now, Scorch, for new players out there who haven't tried a burn deck, do you play would you typically, in a typical situation, I guess it depends on what you're going up against, would you just hunker down and collect at both wells, or would you build to the same side as them because you have cards like Cypher, Cypher's Fodder, Baldurian, who wants to get the corrupt ability off?
Right.
Do you try to engage them that way, whittle down their health, so you can ping them off with and get that Bloodsinger proc?
This list that I was playing, I was kind of playing more far side. You don't really want to go towards them because you don't have things like Cypher in there. You don't have the combat creatures. If you're running the combat package, you want to go towards them. You want to fight.
Okay.
But if you're running kind of a list like this where you're going Rebel Slinger, you want to put it between the far wells to collect, because otherwise it dies way too easily.
Okay.
And then you kind of just hit them from afar, things like Derelict Tower, Cypher's Wrath to follow up on that. There are much more control styles that you could do to this, running things like Cypher, like you mentioned. Even Bomb Slinger is a very good one, and then you would build towards. But generally, I was going far side and then kind of let them come to me, and then something like Ground Shaker Baldurian to then catch up. But yeah, it really, really depends on what you're against. Because sometimes with Burn, you can just go full aggro. Sometimes you just need that one Ground Shaker attack to the orb, and you have way more than enough damage to close the game. But I'm not really sure of where Burn fits in the meta right now. The games that I had, it felt very much like I could easily win a game, and then that exact same matchup lose super hard.
Yeah, I was looking at this list. I know that Red Burn used to run Divine Guardian. Is there a reason that you don't in this list?
No, I just don't really play Divine Guardian as much as I see it played by other players. I had a mirror match basically and lost because my opponent was playing Divine Guardian. So yeah, there's definitely the thing with Burn. I think in my experience, having played it way back in the early days of Faeria and then to now what it is, there are probably about 20 cards that you could realistically run 3 copies of. And you can only, if you want to run 3 copies, fit 10 in the deck.
Yeah.
And that's not even including legendaries. Like I have Baldurian here, but you could also run Cypher. You could run Garridan. If you wanted to, you could run Ignis. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different cards. There's actually so many different styles, but like differences that you can go for, even calling the list Burn. There's a ton of different things you can do with it.
Yeah. I gotta say, I really like the inclusion of Laya in your build, because to your point, if you're building far side away from them, but they're coming in fast on the opposite side, and you haven't started pinging them enough yet, you can drop Laya to take out one of their major threats. If they drop a Verduran Force, and then not only have you taken out their major threat, but you have the Shimmering Statue left in case they've already started hitting you. You've got that taunt, you've got the slight bit of production to help, and Emperor's Command if you want to use it to stay in the game while you're trying to close them out. It's just such a versatile card. I like seeing it in this deck. So
yeah, no, it's a great deck. I like it.
Cool, thank you.
So I think we only have one more deck to kind of cover. It hasn't really. I tried to get Awkward's mono blue deck. He actually, I don't know if you guys are watching, but when I was casting the tournament, he PM'd me some stats. I don't actually have the list, but he said that he had won 9 games in a row, and he was only using this mono blue deck. Until he played S of Dawn, he didn't lose a single game, and he only used one deck. And I mean, and he still took a game off of S of Dawn. Unfortunately, he was eliminated, or he wasn't eliminated. He was in the 3rd and 4th place match, which he did end up winning. But I really wanted to get a hold of his mono blue list. I don't know what he did or how he played it, but it was some kind of crazy. Like, he didn't seem to be losing it all that day. I don't know if it was just top decking or what, but definitely go watch the VOD that will be up on my YouTube channel eventually. It's not right now, but go watch the VOD and go look at his mono blue deck, because it was well worth watching. So with that, I think that we do have one more deck that Scorch wants to cover. It's his Blue Rush with a little bit of yellow. Some spicy ideas going on here. You want to walk us through it?
We got Scorch.
All right, so this is one that I actually just played on stream 2 hours ago. If anybody was watching there, they'll have seen it.
Ooh, look at this.
It is a deck that I've played around with quite a bit, actually. It almost turned more tempo now, because the Blue Rush that I was trying to go for in the past just struggled against your opponent value trading. And you had little things left, or big creatures with a little bit of life left over, that was really difficult for blue to clear, because outside of Ninja Toad, which you really overpay for in a lot of situations, you don't have any clears. So I eventually went, well, I'm running tow ships, what else can I play in yellow? And that led to Templars being included, and eventually built up into Soul Drains and the Wind Soldiers that you see in here. I really like this deck because of the movement it has, similar to mono blue, blue jump right now. You can take early trades very efficiently. And this deck, you literally just want to start. I had Snowstorm Lancers in for testing today, but I had run Tyrannax in the past in that slot. And it just starts out with either like Tow Ship, Ancient Herald, or that Tyrannax, or now Snowstorm Lancer. And you're able to control so quickly through the early game, and then you get into other bigger creatures, generally in the same way that Red Rush does. Get one land on the well control, and then you're looking at playing. This deck's usually a 5-drop every turn, but usually your events are 2 or 3. Your setup cards, if you want to kind of call them that way, are 3 with Humbling Vision, Triton, Banquet. So you always kind of need that little bit of collection, but it's a super fun deck to play. Blue, in my opinion, is the weakest of the Rush. It's really an archetype that's almost never existed, so I just wanted to make something exist in that slot.
Yeah,
I'm delighted to see this. I love Ordrum Templar as well. Have you ever surprised anyone with the movement tricks or Triton Banquet even, and just slam home for that 6 or 7 damage?
Every so often it works. It's very fun when it does, but a lot of the times, even just putting that Templar down, your opponent has to deal with it, sometimes in inefficient ways, or they take way too much damage. So yeah, it's really fun for that as well.
Cool. I think it's an interesting take on blue-yellow. Generally when people think about blue-yellow, they think of the Flight of the Mantas, Istanu, maybe not so much anymore, but I could be wrong. Like Istanu or swarmy kind of stuff. Obviously like Tow Ship and movement tricks, maybe Sunken Tower, that kind of opening has been pretty standard. I mean, even in like blue tokens, you still see Tow Ship and Sunken Tower, I think, a little bit. Maybe Shifting Tide. I'm not sure what each list looks like, but I think it's an interesting and creative take on blue-yellow. It's not even like blue-yellow events with the Colossus, is it? With like flash runs and stuff. Yeah,
like that's another way that you could play it, right? Is we've had those blue-yellow events, Colossus style in the past. Way back before the Windstorm Charger was nerfed to 4 cost, I played a list kind of similar to that style where it's blue-yellow events, Windstorm Charger, Snowstorm Lancers, and then eventually you get your Colossus down as well. Everything looking to trade up, and then you have the Colossus to slam down afterwards.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of blue-yellow in the past, but nothing like this with the Lancer, the Snowstorm Lancer. That's an interesting card. I wouldn't really think that you would be playing that. I mean, I guess it synergizes with Herald, right? And
yeah, which is a great one. And that's kind of, I had Tyrannax in there before, as I mentioned. If you can start with an Ancient Herald, you either get a 3-cost Snowstorm Lancer, or you get a 1-cost Mystic Beast. Odd time you get a 4-cost Ancient Herald, which also isn't bad, because then you can kind of snowball buffs into each other, or discounts into each other.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on the screen. I mean, now, if you didn't remember or know what it did, it kind of makes sense when you're looking at this deck. I mean, it already has jump, so I mean, Triton Banquet is a little bit redundant, but Triton Banquet gives it a +3 wait, is it a 1/0 in jump, or is it a 1/1 in jump?
1/1.
Okay, 1/1.
So it goes to a 6/6.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean,
it's pretty good, right? Like the Snowstorm Lancer, you have even something like Shifting Tide puts it to a 5/5 that, depending on what your opponent opened with, you can get in at something very quickly. If you go for the Humbling Vision, of course, then you're dealing with something very efficiently that way. A lot of the early game for this style is killing off whatever your opponent plays as their first, second, potentially third creature. You're not actually just going straight for the orb like a lot of other Rush decks do. It's more like a control what your opponent's able to do and hit them when they don't have anything on the board type of style.
Yeah, I like it. It's really clean. I mean, it looks good on paper. Oh, this combo, but it might need a little bit more testing, but definitely a fun idea to play with. I'm probably going to add this to my list. So, yeah, really great deck, really great idea. And I think
one more thing on this.
Yeah, go.
I'm just noticing for the first time. I'm surprised I haven't. Is that Hawaka? The Triton?
Hawaka. Oh, I think
From
it is actually.
From the original, when you do those PvE missions.
Oh yeah, I think you're right, because the orb that you can unlock for Hawaka
he has an orb too.
That toad that he's on.
All right, and he's in a wintry forest, a frog or a Triton on top
There's
of a
something
frog.
going on there. I just don't.
Forest.
Hey,
Possible expansion.
I think that
Winter Wonderland. Hey, it would be seasonal, all right.
It would.
Next one's coming out November, December. Snowstorm Lancer's leading the winter charge.
If we don't have an October event in Faeria, I'm just gonna uninstall it. I think we need to start a petition. We need some Halloween content now. Come on, Abraham. I know you can do it. All right. So I think with that, we're just going to kind of move on to some cards. Before the show, we kind of pick a few cards that we want to talk about and kind of let loose on them. They're not necessarily meta, or it's not like we think they're broken or they need to be fixed. We just wanted to talk about them and get some thoughts out there, and maybe you learn something new, or maybe you figure out a new way that you could play something. And
some of these might be our favorites.
Right, exactly,
underdogs, underplayed cards that we'd like to see viable. We're not sure how, maybe. So we want to run it by the community too.
I think we can start. I know, Matrian, you want to talk about Seedling, is that right?
Yeah. Best experience I've had with Seedling is I was running Runin's Guidance, and I was going up against Yellow Rush. They were coming straight towards me. I played a forest in front of me. I played another forest, and I played Runin's Guidance, and I got, what would this have been like? What would that make it, like a 6?
It's
I
a
can't remember
big
with
seed.
The production.
It's a big seed.
It was a big seed, and he auto surrendered with a Seedling straight in his face. He hadn't even dropped any Yellow Rush creatures. So Seedling was great in that context. But I've tried it in other mono green decks, and it's great as an early collector, but that's it, right? This is going to be dead in your hand if you get it mid game or late game, as far as I can tell. So I'm trying to think, how can we make this more viable for? It's not going to be a closer. It's not meant to be, because it's a Seedling. I really love the thematic idea of that it's growing each turn up to a certain point, but I'd like to see it be okay if you drew it mid game too.
I think I do kind of want to mention that certain cards in card games I think are, I don't want to say this is like a bad thing, but like they're kind of meant to be like fillers, or they're kind of meant to do kind of one job. It's like, it's not every card has to be like completely playable beginning, mid, and late game. You know what I mean? So I think maybe sometimes because the card design is great. I mean, it's a really, really great card design. Well done. The art's there. The effect is there. You understand how it works just by looking at it and like reading the title of it. But I just don't think that there's much potential for the way that this card is designed without totally redesigning the rest of the card. Like you'd have to like rework it to make it playable. I think that's what you were asking. I don't know. What do you think, Scorch?
It's interesting, because if it gets to that 4-5 of the max that it can grow, then you trade into something. It can then start to grow again.
True.
Oh, I never considered that.
Yeah, so if you trade into it, it has less health again. It has less than 5. So if you attack into like a 3-4, it goes down to a 4-2, and then it'll grow 5-3, 6-4, back up to 5. Then you trade again, and it gets bigger and bigger again. But the problem is, by turn 5, or I guess turn 6 for the productions, when it's actually a 4-5, there's way bigger stuff on the board.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't want those early plays. I think it, potentially could see like a maybe red-green, what we've been seeing with like the Salamander Crackthorn archetype recently where you could get this in, start it rolling in the slow early turns, and then get like the salamander onto it, then trade into something. Again, it would get that down and then buff back up. It potentially is just a card that hasn't been experimented with enough because, like you're saying, if you draw it in the late game, it's very difficult to get value out of. But I think there is like potential for this card. Like I mentioned, when new cards come out, you have to consider every single card that exists. And when Salamander got released, I wonder if Seedling just was missed and it's actually really good and just nobody's ever tried, right? You never know with things that exist if they are good enough or not.
I don't know. I think at this point we kind of know that it's not great. And I think, like I said, I don't think the problem is with this card specifically. I think the problem is that there are too many cards that just outclass this card as like an opener. So I don't think it's like this card needs to be buffed, this card isn't played. I think it's more of there are just things that outclass it, that you can play earlier that might, like a Sagami Warrior, for what, one more Faeria, you get way better stats. So that's just kind of an example.
Consistency,
right? So I don't know. That's just it's a fun card. It's a cool card, but I just don't see it being very viable. And I'm sure that some people might agree, but I don't know.
No, I appreciate the perspective. That's what this is about. Just getting these cards out there, even if they're viable or not. Getting ideas going. So I appreciate it. So
I want to. We already talked about a few cards earlier, but I kind of want to move into a card that I haven't seen mentioned at all recently, and that's Lava Surge Axolotl. And I'm kind of thinking that there's gonna be a similar conversation to what we just had, but I saw this card and I'm like, man, I have not seen this card in forever, and I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, now that Firestorm is nerfed, even after the Firestorm nerf, I haven't really seen it. And I'm not saying that it's a bad or good card. I just want to see what people think about it and how people would maybe use this card. So what do you think, Scorch?
I mean, there was a very funny video that Werfs did. It's too bad he's not on the Krogcast tonight when you bring the Axolotl up. I think it wasn't an OTK, but it was like a grappling hook one-shot video with the Axolotl. I think was inspired just by him getting like the lore quest or something.
Yeah.
It's good and bad, right? Like, it's the highest attack in the game, which should be good for trading into certain things, but it also doesn't have enough life that you just lose to a lot of things. Something like Wind Soldier, Flame Burst even. There's a lot of ways to actually lose value on this. Now, that being said, it does only cost 4, so there is a huge upside and not as big of a downside to it. Like, realistically, if it gets Flame Burst, it loses 1. Wind Soldier, the problem is it usually collects, so you can never really value how much Faeria you lose on that. But I'm I guess like not surprised that it's not everywhere, but I'm surprised that it's not played almost at all.
Right.
I'll say I've lost. I haven't played this myself, but I've lost to a red yellow build that put Kaleem's training on the Axolotl and it surprised me by being able to come to face when and do lethal when I didn't even think of that. Yeah. I'm also now thinking the idea of Kaleem training an Axolotl to fly is pretty thematically funny. But
yeah, watch out, Matrien's coming for number 1 on the ladder here with this Kaleem's training Axolotl combo.
It was a clever idea, and it gets it up to that 4 health too, which takes it out of range of exactly what you were talking about, Scorch.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not like a big deal. I just kind of saw it. I was scrolling through my library and I was like, what happened to this card? It's 12 attack and Firestorm is nerfed now, so maybe people are still afraid of Flame Burst, but I don't know. I just figured I'd throw it out there. But the other card I wanted to bring in, this is the last card that we're probably going to talk about here, but I want to talk about Frogify. And this is similar to the Axolotl as well. I know that it costs 4 lands, but I'm not sure why I haven't seen this card played as often as, even like a few weeks ago. I mean, even in the tournament, I saw almost exclusively blue and not much Frogify. So
I have 2 words for you. Humbling
Vision. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because of the Humbling Vision buff, we're seeing it way more than Frogify. Of course, you have it on 2 lakes now, which means something like Triton Warrior into Humbling Vision actually trades into a lot. You didn't have to go to that 3rd lake that Frogify was requiring. A lot of the times what we saw from Blue Jump in the past was Triton Warrior, maybe Water Elemental, into then that 3rd lake and Sunken Tower, and then you'd need the Frogify on top of that. But the fact that we're seeing Humbling Vision, it comes down so much quicker, and it a lot of the times is a beefier creature, but usually it's like 3/3 or 2/4, something along those lines, where maybe it has better stats than Frogify, but not by enough that it's worth playing over Humbling Vision.
Right. And I kind of, before Matrien, before we head over to you, I kind of wanted to insert this. I did, when I was thinking about this card, I did consider Humbling Vision as kind of, the better choice. But then I kind of thought back and I'm like, man, Frogify is still a great card. I mean, it's not, but it's weird to say that Humbling Vision is better than Frogify, because I think it is, and a lot of people in the community think it is. And I'm not trying to say one card is better than the other and one card needs to be nerfed, one card doesn't. I'm just like looking at this card and wondering, it's interesting to see how it hasn't, it's kind of been losing play in the last few weeks, and I think it's pretty much due to the Humbling Vision buff. But I think overall, if you're going to go up to like maybe like a Reaver deck, Frogify might not be a bad 1 or 2 of still. I mean, it outs a lot of annoying effects, and the thing is, I think now we're kind of moving into a meta with like swarm stuff, and it's almost not even worth Frogifying stuff because it's almost all swarm now.
Yeah,
that's kind of my thoughts on it. So, anything to say, Matrion?
Not too much, but I guess the one argument in favor of Frogify over Humbling Vision could be that it's, I think you mentioned this, you alluded to this, Frosty, is that it's a form of silence effect. If you're up against a Laya, for example, or a Death Touch creature, Humbling Vision might not, it'll reduce the stats, sure, but it's still going to take you out, versus Frogify negates any abilities that that opposing creature might have. I don't have much experience with this or blue in general, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah. I'm very excited to try out more blue as we get more blue cards for the new expansion.
For sure. Yeah, so I think with that, we've kind of covered everything that we wanted to talk about in the first half of the show. We're going to take a small break, probably like 3 minutes. Before we go, though, Matrion has some lore that we need to attend to. So I will go ahead and let Matrion take over here with his lore.
Sure. All right, so this is just a quick segment thinking about bringing one lore-related topic each week to the show to get your feedback on. And this, if you don't have access to the Faeria Google Drive where they have all of the amazing HD art, check it out on Discord. I think it should be in the one of the welcome pages there. You can find your way to it. But I was scrolling through and I noticed similar background for each of these 3 cards. And it really got me thinking, what's going on in this forest? So I'll share what I'm thinking at first, and then I'm really curious. Let us know in the KrogCast Discord afterwards, if not in chat right now, what you think's going on. If I'm reading into this too much, but I really love that they do this with the art. This isn't the only example of seeing a certain background across multiple cards. If you take a look, so we've got King Magnus of Marival facing the other way in the forest, and his King's Faithful, I want to say, is that card. And he's got his arm on his sword. He's ready to go, protecting the king. And he's faced by Master Swordsman, also ready to go. Resolute expression. He's ready to do this. And then you have Baron Thulgar in the mist. And what I love about his arm is also on it. Well, it's resting on the pommel of his sword. But what I love about Baron Thulgar's art is what they've done with the lighting. the light and the dark on both sides, showing that he's a multifaceted character. And I think if you read into the lore cards for Baron Thulgar, I can't remember precisely, but he's always scheming. He technically has allegiance to the King of Marival. You can tell if you look on their belt buckles that they all have I want to say it's the stag or something of symbol of Marival. So what's going on here? Is he planning a coup of some type? I don't know. I was just really drawn to this and wanted to share it because I think it's a neat little Easter egg buried in the cards. That's all.
Oh, I think there's definitely something brewing back there, but I think that's a talk for another day.
Cool.
Definitely cool stuff, though. I mean, attention to detail is really, really important in games that have lore. So definitely keep
and let
an
us
eye
know
out.
in the KrogCast Discord if you spot any interesting things between cards and you want us to show it on screen next time. Let us know.
All right. Awesome. So I think that we're going to take like a 3-minute break, and we'll be back with a little bit more fun stuff, if you will. So if you were just here, also the card reveal. So if you were just here for like the Faeria content, or the meta and gameplay content, we're kind of going to move away from that and start moving into some more community content. So give us a few minutes, and we'll be right back. We are back. We do have some stuff to do before the card reveal. I know everyone wants to see the card, but I asked the people in our KrogCast Discord what cards they would like to see the hosts draw this week, and we got some pretty good responses. We got I can't remember who each person was that requested it, so I apologize for that. But you'll know when you see your card. So what we're going to do is we are going to show the card that they were tasked to draw, and then we're going to show the host's variation of it, if you will.
Cool.
So first we have, we're going to start with Scorch. We have Dreamkeeper. Here's the original card. Lord knows we're gonna need them for a few of these. So we have Dreamkeeper, and I remember that one. That one was requested from Summerflame, and here is Scorch's rendering of Dreamkeeper. So you want to walk us through what your thought process was here?
I started with the legs. I figured that was a good place to start, and then I drew the face, and then I just randomly threw my arm around to make spikes all over the place. I tried to get the long ones that stick out a bit further up on the top, and the one tail one got way longer than I wanted it to, but it was already too late.
Yeah, it looks.
And then I was like, nope, that's perfect. I'm done.
Yep.
I love it. It looks. I thought it had to be. I thought it was a Crackthorn. I had to check with you. It looks kind of like Crackthorn, I think, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Very, very cute. All right, so now we have Matrien, who was tasked. This was a special request, wasn't it?
It was from Yosh, lover of yaks. Nice. All things yak culture. This is for you, Yosh.
All right, so we see Matrien's drawing of Yak Attack. Ooh, we got a bunch of little yaks over here. What was going through your mind when you were drawing this?
What's going through my mind here? I was on my lunch break, having lunch outside, and I started in the bottom half with those big ones, and I really struggled with the armor on their heads. And then as I started to get up mid-page, I started to think, oh, Yoshi's really he chose this card because he's really trolling me because this is going to take me so long. I got to draw all these mini yaks. So then you can see the detail applied to each yak kind of lowers as I go up page. I put as many on there as I could. And I really struggled with the sky and the mountains and the water in the background. But that's when they're supposed to be. And I put just a little traditional yak up in the top left corner.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually really proud of this one. It turned out better than I thought it would.
It looks
I
great.
even signed it there in case it is ever put up for auction.
Hey, I mean, you never know. It looks, one day when we're all rich and famous, people are going to want that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You never know. The devs watch it and go, no, we need that art for the office.
Next expansion is alternative art cards.
Alternative art. Yeah, that's what Atmos wanted us to do. He wanted us to draw alternative art for cards, for card backs and stuff.
Yep.
So beautiful drawing. I love all the little.
Thank you.
They look happy and content. So really, really well done. Thank you for that. Now, I wasn't specifically tasked with drawing anything, but I chose to draw Rapala. Here's what Rapala looks like. Now get a good look at this before we unveil. I don't know what.
If there are any kids watching at home, cover your eyes.
Cover your eyes,
now,
please.
this has just turned PG-13.
Yep. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, and there's there's Rapala the dope fish. My rendition of it, at least. I mean, I know its face is kind of detached from its abdomen a little bit, but I don't know. I thought it would be easy. I thought it was just a fish. I didn't know how hard. I didn't know how hard drawing a fish could be. So I tried. I put little colors on and then gave it some pink eyeballs and its little mouth. I think that's its mouth. But yeah, that's it's my rendition of Rapala. Hopefully,
now, what medium? What was your medium of choice here to get these vibrant colors?
Well, I used. I actually had to buy the full version of Photoshop. I don't even know what it's called, but I got the whole deal. I got the Illustrator, Photoshop. It took me like 3 hours. Okay. No, I used MS Paint. That's about what it looks like. Absolutely. MS Paint.
I thought you used Crayola pencil crayons, to be honest.
Oh man.
No, I don't. I think it would have been worse if I would have done it in hand. But yeah, that's all I got. It's just a fish. But I did want to shout out all the people that did give us recommendations. I'm sorry that we couldn't get to all of them. We'll try to cover some of the older ones in the next few weeks, or figure out something to do with to keep the community involved. So now I think that we're ready to move into some questions. This is going to make up the majority of the second half of the show usually. So if you had any questions, go ahead.
Oh wait, what about the card reveals?
Oh, hey, I should probably do the card reveals. Thanks, Patrick. I
haven't seen them.
I thought you were just getting to ask your questions. We're going to do the card reveal and then go back to questions.
No, I totally forgot about that. Hey, you guys have Matrion to thank for keeping me on track, because I am an absolute train wreck right now. So we do have 2 card reveals. I was fortunate enough to get them from Atmos earlier. I'm going to separate them a little bit so we'll be able to see them better. Right. These are going to be part of the upcoming Resurgence DLC. The second half.
When does it drop?
That's a good question. I don't know. Do you know when it drops? Because I don't
know.
Tuesday of next week.
October 23rd.
Okay, awesome.
That's the one.
October 23rd. There you go. Be there, be square. So here we have 2 cards. I'm going to reveal them in 3, 2, 1, bang, and bang. So on the left, we have Dwardia, Chief of the Bright Fox Tribe. Whenever Dwardia moves into a forest, you may teleport him to a forest you control. If you do, he gains +1/+1. And on the right, oh wait, hold on a second. I think I messed these. I think I messed these up. I'm going to keep reading the effect because the effect is the same. For Zephyr Vulpine, it's a beast subtype. Whenever this moves into a forest, you may teleports to a forest you control. I want to mention that these are not the correct stats. I actually messed that up a little bit. The stats are not correct. The effects are the same, but the stats are not the same. So give me 1 second. I'm going to try to remedy this.
Wow. This is the first time I'm seeing them.
Yeah, go for it. You guys
these are
go
beautiful.
For it. Talk about it while I remedy
oh my
this.
gosh, a unique legendary. That looks like a Rick Cohen to me, right?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Spirit Vulpine, like Zephyr Vulpine. It's first of all, the artwork's amazing. So shout out to the artist.
Is.
The ability. I love the ability to teleport throughout the forests. It really shows they're so agile and swift moving through. And the Bright Fox tribe. Well done. I'm really happy with this.
Yeah, I did want to mention, just before we kind of move on, I believe Dwardia is a 6/6 creature, and I can't remember what the Vulpine is, but watch the Discord servers for after the show is over. There will be the updated version in the Discord servers. The one that you're seeing on your screen right now is not the current final stats. So sorry about that, but
wow,
that's not the current final. So this, I believe the stats are actually better than what they are on screen. So
wow.
These are not the final cards. These are just the ones that I got from Atmos, but he sent me updated ones. It was a miscommunication, but the final cards will be posted in Discord. So you got anything to say about that, Scorch?
I mean, these look insane right off the bat. Very similar to Sagami Grovecaller type effect, where it's teleport to a forest you control. Really land positioning dependent, which is really cool. That they are trying to focus quite a few things recently on your actual positioning on the board mattering much more. If Vulpine stats got better, that's busted.
I think that it's a 3/3. Yeah. If I remember correctly.
If that one went down, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. I totally scuffed that, but
having the beast tag on there is great. Of course, hunt down that goes to a 5/3. Usually dies, I would say, probably in a lot of situations, but just a fact of zipping around the board to either get clears. You can use that in very much the same way of like a Wind Soldier, where you collect, then teleport it across, and then kind of collect again, and then go for a trade. Dwardia actually is super interesting for the other way around, where I think you kind of want to kite around the board until it gets big enough, and then like zip and attack, and then dip back out, back to a more protected position. So that is super interesting to me.
Well, here's the thing. I got these cards, and the effects are the same. The stats are different, but effect-wise, think about this, right? This is not an activated effect. It's not a gift. Right. It's not like a continuous effect. Or I guess it would be. Now think about this. Let's say that you play Flash Wind. That does work. So if you want to Flash Wind it across the board, and then hit something, and then Flash Wind it to a forest and get it back to safety. Not only can it collect when it teleports, as long as it was able to collect that turn anyways, obviously. You know what I mean? So if you teleport something with Sagami and you haven't moved it, you can move it to tile, collect, attack, whatever. Same thing with this card. You get to move it, and then if you use a movement trick on it, you can move it after it's teleported. So it gets to collect, trade, and then do everything a normal creature would be able to do. So it doesn't come back to your hand like Runin does, but you could definitely be Flash Winding this. Any movement trick that you can move this onto a forest with will automatically trigger it. The same thing.
Frosty, yeah. Can you confirm how Sagami Grovecaller might interact with this? Does that count as moving into a forest? So could you teleport 2 forests in one turn, essentially, get 2 buffs on it? Does that make any sense? If you teleport it to a forest,
I would
moves
assume it's not moving to a forest. It's as if you summoned it onto that forest.
Okay.
So the same with Corrupt, right? If you use dash, you're already existing on that land. You didn't move onto that land, I would guess. But of course, I'm just seeing these cards for the first time as well. So
I'm like, to answer Matrien's question, I'm almost 100%. I'm like 95% sure that if you let's say that you move Dwardia onto a forest, it teleports. Yeah. You play Sagami, and then it teleports Dwardia. I believe that it would activate the effect. I have no reason to think that it would not. And I think that's why they made it kind of a legend, because it does get that buff. So I don't know. I don't know how it would work mechanically. Absolutely, I know that there are some people that might know how it works, so I can ask them and get back to everybody. But for right now, I'm pretty sure that's how it would work, but definitely don't take my word for that. Do some testing. It's a cool card regardless. You guys can have a bunch of fun thinking about all the fun mechanics you can use this with. And once it comes out, once we start figuring out, like you said, if Sagami could work, that could definitely be an option, getting those 2 buffs. But I would imagine that's how it worked. I think I want it to work like that. That might not be the same as how it actually works, but that's how I would want it to work. But yeah, like Zaldin said, don't take my word for it. We're just speculating for the most part. But the same thing with Volpine. It's I would imagine it's the same mechanic as Dwardia. It's just mobile.
One of the key things I'm going to say here as well is you may. So I wonder how many times we're going to see people move and try to attack, or like be like, I can't attack, what's wrong with my mouse, or something, and just like randomly click on the board and teleport by accident.
Right.
As being like, right, I have to use that first. Because it does, right? If you're moving from a land and you have to move through one of your forests to go for a clear, which is really nice that it's a May. It's not that you have to teleport it, right? Because otherwise then those clears, you'd be like, well, I can't go for that. Now what do I do? So I really like that it is a May teleport. But I definitely can see people doing that, of misclicking and canceling the attacks, or canceling the attacks using the teleport by accident.
Yeah. Something else I'm noticing, I'd want to clarify. I don't think this will be the case, but does taunt prevent this from going off, or does teleportation bypass taunt?
Should bypass it.
Okay.
Yeah,
we won't know until we try, I guess, or a developer lets us know. But
you're able to currently Grove Call or something that is taunted. I know that's not exactly the same because it's another creature moving that creature.
Yep.
But if you were to move onto a forest that was within taunt range, I would guess that you're probably able to move afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of testing with mechanics and people discovering new crazy strategies. Like, for example, the claims training. I can imagine that would work. It says moves into, so maybe it can't have flying. Maybe there's some like hidden mechanic, but I'm pretty sure that's how it would work. Definitely something to think about in the coming days. But for now, I think that's all that I have. Anything you guys want to add?
Nice. I'm really impressed by the artwork, and looking forward to trying these out.
Yeah, so like I said, before we move on, I did want to mention that these are not the correct stats. The effects are the same, but the stats this is like the first draft of the stats. I'm going to be sending the correct stats after the show is over. They will be in Discord, in the community announcements Discord. So I apologize for that. But other than that, the effects are the same. Really, really cool cards. And you guys can definitely think about those in the future. So now now we're ready to move on to some questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide those. And if you want to start, Matrien, just go ahead and see what people are asking.
We also have some from last week that people asked in the Discord. Do you want to do those now or later?
I think we can start with those.
While everybody's thinking, there's one from Dan F, former Faeria developer, actually, or designer, developer. What types of cool deck archetypes would you like to see introduced to Faeria? And I have one, Scorch. I don't know about you guys, if you're ready for this one.
I don't really have like an archetype in particular, but kind of in keeping with the cards that we just saw, I think there are so many interesting things that the developers can introduce in terms of actually utilizing lands in different ways. I really wanted the Explorers a long time ago to gain some special effect depending on what you actually summoned them on. I thought maybe kind of the same for multicolor cards, because something with like a 2 forest, 2 mountain that gains, attack if you summon it on mountain, or gains health if you summon it on a forest. I think those types of interactions would be really interesting to be introduced into the game, where it actually depends on your land placement. These cards that we're seeing are kind of right up that alley, so I'm really excited that more types of things like that are being introduced into the game.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if he was trying to ask if it was archetypes or subtypes. I think he was asking about subtypes, because I know that archetypes are a thing too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I guess what got me thinking. Basically my answer to his question about deck archetypes. I really want to see mono neutral built out in a more of a. I mean, there's a rush variant that's, high risk, high reward. It's not very viable if you're trying to climb to the top tiers. But I really want to see mono neutral, mid range, maybe even control someday. And what I think could really work with that archetype is, because when you're building lands with neutral, you can build 2 lands, right? So you're going to naturally have more lands. So I want to see the rebels built out. Even if they're not a subtype, I like the idea of the rebels as a group that can synergize with each other. And my idea for that archetype, because you're building so many neutral lands, is an adjacency buff concept.
Okay.
So you'd have certain cards that if they're next to another rebel, you can support that one, and it'll give it a buff to its defense or its attack. And I'd love to see a mono neutral like the rebel leader.
Right.
I think it'd be a really fun thing to do. I know traditionally neutral cards are used to splash. They're the base core cards, and they're meant to be splashed around into other decks. We've got wild cards too, which technically count as neutral in some cases, even though you need lands for them. But in playing with my experience with Elder Scrolls Legends, I was really delighted when the developers made they built out this Dwemer archetype for mono. If you were running what used to be a meme kind of list, and they all synergized off each other, all these kind of robots, or something like that, Steam-based robots. It was a fun idea, and I was delighted to see that it was an entirely new archetype. So mono neutral rebels, that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see some kind of I think I want to talk about kind of like a new subtype instead. I want to see like vampires, or like undead, or like zombies or something. I don't know how well that would fit. I don't know how well that would fit into the Faeria lore, like the storyline. I don't know if that would be too complicated or too awkward. But
yeah, they've kind of got that going with Corrupt,
right?
In some ways.
Well, because
Imperial Trooper is kind of like a zombie.
Yeah. Well, because I was thinking, because I know that there was like vampire stuff before. I was told. I wasn't playing the game when that was around. I think that somebody mentioned vampire, but I never. Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard about it before, but I've never actually seen it.
Was. I can give you the kind of the history on it, just because I was playing it the initial time. It was potentially one of the most broken cards that's ever existed in Faeria, because of the fact of how consistently it was that deck was played. So Shaitan Vampire back then was a 7/4. I believe it cost 6 or 7, but I'm not exactly sure on the cost off the top of my head. But it was drain 2 life from every adjacent creature. So again, plays into that land positioning very well, theoretically. Except a lot of the times you would kill 2 or 3 creatures and get a 7/9, 7/11, or 7/8, or 7/10, something huge.
Yeah.
It was a massive swing, and at that time they were trying to really reduce the amount of swing that you could get from playing something and killing off a bunch of your opponent's stuff.
Right.
The original design of Azurai, just as an example as well, was Last Nightmare. So it was gift effect, destroy a creature. But it was so impactful of drop a 6/6 and kill their big thing.
Yeah.
So just they were trying to eliminate those types of things at the time, but Vampire existed for so long in that iteration, and then it was so good everywhere of the tempo swings that it provided.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to kind of say was like a subtype. So maybe not as broken as like, because I have heard of how broken Vampire was before. I did hear that, but what I was trying to say was like a Vampire subtype. I don't really understand how that would work. Obviously, they've tested stuff with Vampire and it didn't seem to work very well. So I don't know if that would be a possibility, but maybe something undead like zombies, goblins, or something along those lines, like Matrion was saying. A bunch of little stuff, not even like swarm, but I don't know if like rats or something from Magic the Gathering, or I don't know if you guys know know where I'm going with that, but just stuff that synergizes with each other, sort of like beasts, but like really, really, really specific within that subtype. But that's just in the future, looking forward. That'd be something cool,
Well,
like
since you're mentioning the undead, it reminds me of Elder Scrolls Legends has a big undead presence, an entire color kind of dedicated to that necromancy theme. And a big part of it is going into your graveyard or the cards you've already played and pulling back creatures, buffing them. I don't know if you could easily, I really doubt you can easily apply that to Faeria because of the deck size of 30 cards versus 50 plus in Elder Scrolls Legends. But I do love that graveyard concept.
Yeah, sure. Be cool. I think that's about everything that we had to say on that.
Cool. Any other questions in the chat? I haven't
any questions from chat. We'll wait a second for you guys to kind of catch up.
Let's take a look.
But,
yeah. Thank you guys again for coming out. I hope you enjoyed these card reveals.
Despite my miscommunication of the stats, a little bit of a slip up there for me, but should have the correct ones in Discord after for your viewing pleasure.
Or say when. Oh God.
How many times can Dwardia teleport? I mean,
we can't say for sure. We can't say for sure. I would imagine. I don't know.
If you had the movement, it's probably unlimited, but that depends on you actually having that movement of Flash Winds, Fanatics, and then its natural movement of being like, step onto a land, teleport, then move it, then move back, teleport, then move it, then move back. Like, there's just, I think, too many extra steps in between, but probably as many times as you want.
And he can only attack once per turn as well. It's not like every time he moves he gets to attack. It's still that one attack per turn. So theoretically, if you could teleport it more than once, which I'm assuming you'll be able to, I can't say for sure, but we're assuming you're going to be able to, you can still only attack, and move your one space, like Scorch said, move your one space naturally once per turn. So
I just got a crazy meme idea. I don't even know if technically it could work, but let's say you use Param to fill the world with forests. You find a way to use Ulani's medallion on a bunch of you have a bunch of creatures on board, and you make them all into Dwardia, and you're just zipping and zipping and zipping all over the place. I don't even think it's feasible, but in my head, it seems fun.
I was thinking more like movement OTK, 2 forests right beside each other, and you just teleport back and forth. So once it teleports, the movement is into another forest, teleport back, into another forest, teleport back. I don't think you could theoretically get 14 in one turn, but it's there.
Maybe.
Cool. Dwardia deserves his own animes with those zipping back and forth.
Yeah, with his arms behind him. Yeah. For sure.
Cool.
So I think we do have a question from. I'll address a shorter question really quick while you guys figure out what you want to ask. But we have a question from D's Nuggets. Will we ever show meme battles on stream? I don't think we will. Do you guys think? I mean, I don't really know about like showing a game and like commentating on it. I think that we're mostly about like talking. But what do you guys think? Yes or no? Maybe.
I don't know how we'd pull that off live, just because I'm not too experienced with Twitch and casting and all that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if we'd do it live.
Yeah,
but
I think
certainly have videos we can make.
I would say, because you would be looking at meme battles, if you want to put it that way, it's probably both players playing a meme deck, which are generally slower. you're setting up a specific either combo or couple cards onto the board and then doing something with those that actually makes it meme. And those games just take a long period of time to actually set up whatever that meme piece is, whether it's like Dream or, you know, like Rapala, discard their hand, like whatever way you want to phrase it. Like it's really tough to put that into a condensed that fits into a decent time frame.
Right. I just don't think, I mean, maybe like a separate content, like a meme, like game, but I don't think anything on the KrogCast, no. So I did want to address... oh, go ahead.
No, you're reminding me, if you're looking for a meme on meme battle, I have a video on my channel called Faeria Stone. It's I took all the random cards in the game at the time and put it up against Werfs and Bobbin, who were also running completely random. The requirement was that every card in your deck had to have the word random in it.
I did that on stream for one time. Did you? Yeah.
Oh god.
Nice.
That's great. That's I'd like to see that actually, but maybe meme battles in the future sometime, but probably not in the near future. So I do want to address a few people have asked this. If you could invent a keyword, what new keyword would you implement? That's from two different people. I think is that like keyword.
I have a great one for this, by the way, that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time.
Let's hear it.
Some of the older players may remember the original Runen's Shrine actually was it was Runen's Shrine? There was another card that actually did a creature as well, I think. Or maybe it was just I wanted to see it on a creature, but it was whenever your orb took damage, this takes damage instead. So what I wanted to see was something like a defender keyword that either was when your orb took damage or when another creature took damage, this creature takes it instead. So you can kind of pass that damage on to something else instead of whatever was going to take damage, whatever way that keyword ends up working. I think would be something really interesting.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about keywords. That is a really great idea, though. I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I've only thought about different cards for keywords that already exist. Like, I want to see some more aquatic cards. That'd be something really cool to kind of expand on. I know it's not very like practical, but you know, the fact that, you know, a card being aquatic could open up some possibilities for some really fun, you know, abilities. You know, if it's on an ocean tile, then it could get a certain buff or some production on an ocean tile. I'm not sure, but keyword wise, I don't really have anything. I mean, I haven't really put much thought to it, you know, if that's been pretty busy, but anything you got, Matrion?
I'm trying to think. You know, I might just consider poaching from some of the other games I've played. Elder Scrolls Legends, I'll shout out again. There's one interesting recent mechanic called Exalt, where you can play a card normally for its regular cost, but if you are willing to pay more for it, you can give it an extra ability.
Ooh.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering uses X cost as well, where you have whatever kind of the normal payment is, and then you have X, and then it's deal X damage. So whatever you pay is what it becomes. Could become kind of a UI issue just depending on the way that they choose to do it. I could definitely see something like that being very interesting, where you go pay for more damage, pay for more buffs, pay for more, I don't know, life on a structure or something, or pay for more life to your own orb and healing, pay for more draw, something like that, where you can have that X requirement and apply it to a bunch of different things.
I want to mention, I think Teddy and some other people were talking about Slam. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, where like it's kind of like in chess, if you're looking at the chessboard, it's like a file, as they call it, which is like all the way up the board one way. So if a creature attacks, I'm not sure how they would implement that, but like if a creature attacks like directly up, I guess it would attack the whole file.
Oh no, Slam existed in Faeria and they removed it.
Oh, it did. Okay, I didn't realize
it was that. So Slam was on a lot of green creatures mainly, but was on a lot of other ones as well. Slam is the text that current. Oh geez,
I got a Raccoon Rebellion on my hands.
Yeah, as was just pointed out there as well, Slam is the text that currently exists on Boulder Thrower, which is when it attacks, it also damages everything around whenever it attacks.
Okay.
So that at one point was a keyword, which was called Slam, and was super broken, especially on Feral Kodama at the time, which had Jump and Slam, and you could teleport around with Grove Collar, hit whatever you wanted on the board, and everything around it. Oh, and it hit the orb if that creature was beside the orb, so you couldn't even like body block to defend. It was insane.
Maybe I don't know how this could work, but maybe like a keyword where, you know, if two things are in a line and they're kind of, I'm trying to like make this like description easy to like understand because I'm still like thinking about it, but if two creatures are like in a line and you attack one in a certain direction, it would also attack the creature behind it. I don't know, like something maybe like Pierce. Yeah, Pierce. That was like the keyword. I don't know if that is that dumb or is that like it, but it would have to like there would be like stipulations like you'd have to attack in a straight line
in the right angle.
Yeah, it wouldn't be AoE. You'd have to attack the angle. I don't know how that would work, but that'd be kind of cool. I mean, like a swordsman that would be able to use his blade to pierce through his enemy and still hit the enemy behind it, or I don't know how that would work, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion at the time when they removed Slam of different ways that it could work well, whether it was attack and then, you know, choose if there is a target around it that you would slam into, right. Or somebody mentioned as well something like trample, where if it overkilled that creature, the excess damage would slam around. But yeah, something like Pierce would be very interesting because, again, you're having to consider positioning on the board.
Right. And
you're looking at, okay, I have to attack exactly from this angle.
Yeah, and it would, I think, you know, it wouldn't be an ability that would make taunt like useless, you know, and also it kind of utilizes the board. So it's like a Faeria thing. Because, I mean, you think about Pierce, you know, a creature attacking the creature behind it. It doesn't really work in Hearthstone, does it? You know, it doesn't really work in Magic. It has to be kind of that board mechanic. So kind of like corrupt, you know, you're using the board to corrupt. So, and what I was saying, so like say, you know, you're looking up the left well and you have two creatures in a line and you attack the creature going straight up, you attack in that direction, it hit the creature behind. Diagonally, it would hit the creature to the, you know, top right. So, you know, it's kind of utilizing the board. That'd be kind of interesting. I just kind of thought of that. I didn't really think about that before, but really, really good question for whoever asked that. But I think we have a few more miscellaneous questions that we already have prepared. If you guys want to keep asking, just go for it. Oh, Tarsus. He said, what do you guys think about introducing another land type?
You know, there's one I don't know if it'd be well, I'll just throw it out there. I really like the idea of having an ice land where you can characters can slide over it. It's kind of gimmicky, but it could be fun.
Maybe for a Winter Wonderland kind of event. I'm throwing ideas out there. I'm throwing ideas.
On home turf, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're too far past it. The devs' response are usually Atmaz is the one who sees it and answers it, but the devs' kind of stance on it is, what mechanics would be introduced in a new color that don't already exist, like in some way in one of the other colors? But I always think of it as we're too far in. Right now you've got, I don't know, 400 something. Yeah. I don't know the exact number. But you've got, I think, something like 100 cards in each color. So you'd have to introduce enough into a new color that it populates at the same state the other colors are currently at. Otherwise, it's way too weak, right?
Right. I agree.
If down the line they went, here's a huge expansion of new cards, then it could work. But I think right now it would be way too much of an undertaking, especially of like the monthly content that we're getting. You can't go, okay, this month and the next, like for the next 6 months, we're releasing a new color. Because then it's like it's slowly worked in, but it's not good until the very end And even then, that very end point is when you see if it's going to be good or not.
Yeah, it's a good question though, right? Like it's a good hypothetical question, but when we're looking at the state that the game is in, you know, it'd be fun to like Matrien said, kind of, oh, an ice type, or oh, like a dirt type, or I don't know. You know,
but you could have like land alteration where it's
right.
It's like turn
cool.
a lake into ice, and now you slide across it. Turn a forest into vines, where it's like any creature with movement gets stuck in that tile. Turn a mountain into a volcano where you take damage stepping. Like you could have things like that where it actually alters the lands that already exist in some way.
Okay, that would be cool.
So then you have different lands in appearance on the board, but you're not introducing a ton of new cards.
Yeah, I mean, that I like that idea a lot with the turning lands into other like special lands. To be fair though, I don't think there's enough lands on the board to make that like viable, if you will. I think that people would just figure out what the best land like transformation, like it'd be a volcano, and then you just volcano around your face or something, and I don't know. It's like I said, very hypothetical, really fun to play with, you know, very fun to talk about. So really good question. I think, let's see. Oh, Metagaming TV, when we're talking about keywords, he said push. Yeah, push, where if you hit a creature, it moves back on the that tile.
Yeah.
They don't have anything like that right now. I think that would be that'd be kind of cool, but I don't know how like fun that would be to play against. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, that's not like a big factor when they're, you know, talking about new cards. I mean, they released the new Radiance. That's not fun to play against, but that's just me. Yeah. But for push, it's definitely an idea. Definitely an idea. You know,
I think the closest thing we have right now is spending the extra Faeria for Flashwind, right?
Right.
Yep. And I think that would get kind of maybe like I'm like drawing like power creep. Like you just keep pushing the other creatures away and just keep defending. I don't know how realistic that would be. Knockback,
I mean, you could have it as a combat,
maybe
as a sub combat keyword, where it's like combat, move whatever creature this. I don't know the wording because I'm making it up as we go, but like combat, move whatever creature this attacks. Like I don't know. It would be interesting because then you could attack to move a creature off a land so that you could then play a creature on your own land and stop your opponent from land blocking. I think combat would be the right way to do it rather than a whole new keyword.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to talk about, you know, when we're thinking about new content, especially with an upcoming expansion past Resurgence. But I did want to reach out to Cheholic. Here are the new cards, by the way. I feel bad we didn't get to show him, and we didn't draw his picture either. He did put in a request to be drawn, and we didn't get to his. So here's the cards. They will be posted in Discord as well. And Scorch also revealed the card on his channel. So we will be plugging that at the end of the stream. So they're the
and Cheholic, note that these are not the right stats.
Yeah, these are not the right stats. There was a little bit of a mishap on my end. These are not the final stats for anybody else that's watching. The final stats will be posted in the public Faeria Discord at the end of this stream. These are just the effects and the art right now. So that's all we're looking at on these images. Cool. Right. So I believe, don't take my word for it, we're gonna confirm this after the stream. I think that Dwardia on the left is a 6/6, and I think that Zephyr Volpine is a 3/3, I believe. But after the stream, they will be posted, and we'll forget all about what we saw stats wise here. Sorry about that again. So I do want to address Summerflame, his question in Discord. He said, how do you approach deck building? How do you approach deck building? I mean, I already have an answer. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Most of my deck building is I've played the game long enough that I know the core that I want to start with. And then usually I'm playing that because a certain card has triggered my interest, or a new card is released, so 3x that, get in there. Usually that's the way I go about it, and then tweaking is just kind of, what do I need? Do I need earlier plays? Do I need more removal? Is something feeling a little better where I'm losing to a certain card that I need something bigger, or I need something different of movement or something along those lines, where usually it's start from the core, whether that's 15 to 20 cards, something in that range, and then just build from there.
Yeah, one of the things I'll note for new players out there, deck size is 30 cards. You can run 3 copies of a card. If you're just starting out, it'll really help you get used to how, a core set of cards if you run 3 copies. And then you can work up to having a legendary, a couple tech cards. It's just my own opinion to help you get acclimated to, how to play.
I think so. The way that I usually build decks is I'll turn my stream on, and I'll play a deck that I've been playing for 3 months, and then I wait for people to get in, and then say, "Hey guys, what deck should I play?" And then they'll give me a deck, and as I'm building it, putting cards that I think would be good in the deck, I'm getting spammed by 3 different people to put different cards in the deck. So I put those cards in the deck, and by the end of the deck, I'm at like 36 cards, and I'm having to cut cards. So then when I start cutting cards, people start yelling, and then I'm getting, So I just build whatever people kind of want to watch. But that's how I build decks. I've built a few decent decks in the past. The deck that I got to Godrink was based on one of Summer Flame's decks, my first ever season playing, so that was kind of a really, really cool introduction to deck building and seeing how cards can interact with each other before even hopping into the game. But yeah, I usually, when I build decks, I just keep clicking on cards that I want to have in my deck, and then I just hope that the number is 30 when I get to the end. That's how I do it.
I will say they just recently introduced, I think with Faeria 2.0, maybe a month or 2 ago or more, a very valuable quality of life improvement to deck building where you can add more than 30 cards to your deck. Yeah. Previously, you could only go up to 30, and it really limited your ability to see everything on screen and kind of think, oh, what are my synergies? What do I want to add, cut? It's really helpful now to throw everything up against the wall and then distill it into something that you're going to have fun with and that's going to be viable.
Actually, kind of while we're on the deck building here, I'm going to throw this to you guys of whether you prefer, for things like removal or movement, things that are close enough but serve different purposes. If you like going 3 of one thing or 2 and 2, because I really prefer 2 and 2, looking at something like Grovecaller and Horsemaster, or Frogify and Humbling Vision, where you have similar effects that do serve different purposes. Just kind of what you think in deck building of what you lean towards if you notice that type of consistency.
Oh, wait, we asked people in chat, kind of?
No, you guys, of like your deck building experience.
Anything to add, Matrion?
Sorry, I thought the question was for the chat.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was as well. It's late. Say it again. We'll answer it.
If in running similar effects that serve somewhat different purposes, if you like running 2 and 2 or 3 of 1 for consistency. So comparison of being like Horsemaster, Tsugami Grovecaller for movement, or Humbling Vision, Frogify for removal.
I do. When I play Mono Blue, I play. I think I play Reaver Blue. That's like my personal favorite. I do. I
love Reaver.
2 Phantasm and 3 Vision. So instead of like Frogify and Vision, I like the body. So I think that's what you're trying to kind of. I think that we can look at green and be like, like guidance and embrace kind of thing. Is that what you're asking?
Right. Yep. Similar.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah.
Well, I
would be
was
a similar
thinking
thing.
I like embrace and command in green
Embrace
personally.
command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to kind of guidance and embrace, I think command is a little bit more versatile for me. This is personal. This is not, you know, whatever the top players do. This is kind of what I like to do in green. But yeah, I don't like running things that are too closely related at all. You know, like I think that, you know, having just the right amount of answers, you know, 2 or 3 answers for every specific thing. You want to try to cover as many bases as you can. That's what I try to do. That might be a weakness of mine, but that's what I try to do when I build decks. I don't like to go like all in on one specific strategy, if you will. So.
Yeah, I mean, I really like running 3 as much as possible for consistency. Because it is a 30 card deck, you're more likely to draw what you're looking for. But if I am running a legendary or 2 legendaries, that's when you start to think, do I want to do 2 and 2 with some of the other cards? But
yeah, it's just something I always think of when I'm deck building as well, because I always find myself drawn to a 2 and 2 or something. Worf just said Last Nightmare in chat as well, something where I'll run like 2 Last Nightmare, 1 Choking Sand instead of 3 Last Nightmare.
Yeah, that's a great example, a perfect example of there's some cards you just don't want to run more than 1 or 2 copies of.
Right.
It's because of their cost, and sometimes they could be dead in your hand.
Well, I think a prominent example of that is Aurora's Creation. I think like whenever I played it, I always liked running, you know, 1 or 2 copies. I've played probably, I know this isn't much of a, you know, comparison to what most players have played with certain decks, but you know, I've played a lot, probably a good 30-40 hours with like this one blue-red deck. And I had 3 creations in it, and it always seemed like the more I played it, it's like the more that creation was clogging my hand up. So I think that it's also kind of a personal preference of, you know, do you think that you could utilize this card? Do you want to focus on using this card? Is this clogging your hand up? Do you maybe want to play something else that better fits your style or a card that you like? That's what I do. It's more about, you know, what feels good playing, what I enjoy playing, what feels good to me, rather than, you know, what's the best deck in the game. Or I don't really care for that. I'm kind of this is fun, this is cool, maybe I can win a few games. So that's kind of how I approach deck building to answer it. And to answer your question, Scorch, like, you know, running 2 or 3 of a card or 1 or 2 of a card might be actually more beneficial to playing that card than running 3 of it, you know. Right. So
shout out to Hunter in the chat for saying he likes running 3 of each copy, so the screenshots are easier. As a content creator, I can totally agree with that when I'm clipping it for my videos. Great point to make.
For sure. And I think unless there's any kind of last minute questions, I think we're pretty close to wrapping this show up. Well, I'll be watching the chat, but I just wanted to make a few announcements. First of all, thank you for coming out. I hope that you enjoyed this show more than the last, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the shows more than the last until we stop doing the streams, for the most part. But I appreciate everybody coming out. I'm sorry about the card reveal mishap. I thought that I put the new versions in, but I must not have. They will be in the public Faeria Discord and the KrogCast Discord. I will try to get those, and I'll post them on Reddit and everything. I will get the correct versions to as many places as possible to avoid confusion. So again, I'm very sorry about that. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for Matrien and Scorch for taking time out of your busy schedules to come on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for
sure.
And
Faeria Friday hype tomorrow.
Faeria Friday hype tomorrow. Do not forget about Faeria Friday. Scorch, his YouTube channel is Metagaming TV. I didn't put a command in chat, but I hope that you guys have gone and watched his video. There was a timer. But if you... Considering
how Nightbot's been every time we've mentioned it, it's popped. Just wait a minute or two and it'll probably come through. But it's also posted through the Faeria Discord. It was posted through the Metagaming TV one as well. I know. Oh, there we go.
There we
that's
go.
You can find it's YouTube Metagaming TV. It's the same name for Twitch for me streaming as well.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And the VOD will be on Matrien's channel. I send the VOD to him, so he uploads it to his channel. So make sure to go check him out. He has a lot of awesome Faeria content other than the KrogCast VODs. Very, very well done videos. Also,
Thanks,
Werfs, thank you for being in chat and being here. Normally Werfs is on with us, but he was not able to make it tonight. So thank you. Werfs has done some work. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for all the questions. Make sure to join our Discord as well to ask questions. And you guys, the people that ask questions beforehand are kind of at the top of the list question wise, just because we like to think about answers beforehand, but we also enjoy interacting with you guys in Twitch chat. So if you did follow during the stream, I appreciate that. And I will not be casting the tournament on Saturday. Figured I'd kind of put that out there. I believe, I don't want to say this for sure, but Dekunut might be casting it. We still need some confirmation on that, so I have to do some extra credit for a school field trip, or with a school field trip, so I will not be casting on Saturday. But I think those are all the announcements that I have to make, so thank you guys again, the hosts and the viewers, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.